Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the House of Bloodstein, Mentralysis, Part 2, Chapter 4, entitled Sleep, with a question mark, and I suppose you'd pronounce that sleep? Anywho, last week, Kay was led into the infirmary area of the Hospitaller facility on the beautiful Gold Coast of HOBM. He sees his cousin Sarah, he sees Magistrate Kylos and her son Sebastian, a couple of staff members, and Sam, all slumbering in their stasis capsules. All of them blanks, just like Lady Chrysania was in the previous book. No eyes, ears, mouth, nose, face, breasts, other various workings, all gone. They're kept alive via stasis with tubes and other workings inserted into their bodies. Using the magic of Mentralysis, Kay was able to speak to Sam and found out the Hospitallers have what's called as an RDP, or read data program, running, which creates like a little very realistic dream for her. So she thinks she's just home, waiting at the castle, waiting for Kay to return. Doesn't know anything's happened, which is good. Kay discovered Queen Gome is wearing Sam's face and her hands with her impressive claws, and she's wearing Sarah's eyes. Queen Gome wanted access to the Blanchford fortune and was going to have Kay sign some documents, and then they were going to shoot Kay in the head. Rothiba of George sent Laika to watch over him, and she rescued him before he could be assassinated, which is where we are now. Rothiba made an impassioned speech to Kay, trying to get him to assist them in recovering two artifacts, the necklace and the headset of Wilhelm of Wham, that would allow her to take control of her body, when they would also have to capture Queen Gome. That's, I guess, part of the deal too, though they didn't talk about that, but that's something that's going to have to happen, and Kay agreed. And that's where we are at the beginning of this quest for the artifacts of Wilhelm of Wham. I don't succeed, but I try to keep the MacGuffins to a minimum in the story. You know, for God's sakes, if you watch the Rise of Palpatine a few months ago, I mean, there was just one MacGuffin after that. We gotta find this stupid, really cheesy-looking knife. We gotta find the Sith Wayfinder. Now we gotta find the other Sith Wayfinder. Now we gotta find the knife, and blah, blah, blah. And all that does is create an excuse for action and adventure. You know, you quest for this MacGuffin, and then you quest for that MacGuffin. And then these items really serve just a very limited part of the story. And after a while, they get kind of pedantic. You know, you're like, God, okay, here we are, another little sub-quest for the MacGuffin. I try to limit those as best I can. But yeah, I don't succeed, you know. So we got the necklace of Wilhelm and the headset of Wilhelm, and a little light bulb should be going off that goes MacGuffin. But they do play a critical role in the story. You know, that it is what it is. As we get into this next chapter, Chapter 4, Sleep, you're going to see that I fell into a massive quandary, and one that I struggled with. And you'll see if you can figure out what it is. At the end of the reading, I will tell you what it is. But let's see if you can figure it out. Anyways, enough of my mimbo-jimbo. Let's proceed. Chapter 4, Sleep. They flashed across the head of the great constellation Serpens toward Kana, flying an old Vith Venera ship. Laika was sitting in the giant-sized control seat, her 6 arms moving in fluid coordination. The ship was one of many Rothiba and her evil counterpart, Queen Gome, had collected over the years. She had them sequestered on most League and Zaffin planets in case a quick getaway was needed. The Venera consisted of a single open bay that went back 100 feet all the way to the engines. It was spacious and commodious compared to the rather small ships Kay was used to flying in. It was also high enough inside that Laika didn't have to stoop. Kay sat on a plush, padded couch nearby, anxious to begin this strangest of quests. His thoughts spun. Sam, faceless in a capsule. Sarah and Kai, too. He felt lifeless and drained, as if he were in a capsule as well. Dreaming. A pre-programmed dream. "Where are we going, Laika?" he asked. He honestly had no idea. "Terrath Nor," Laika replied. "Kana." Kay hardly processed the information. "Terrath Nor. Where's that?" "Kana," Laika repeated. "Where on Kana?" "Hospitaller Sanctum, 3.84 miles south of the Withelwell River. Get resupplied there, and briefed on where to go." Sam was fond of telling Kay the story of how she dreamed of him before he was born, and how she longed for him to come into the world with her. That's how Kay felt at the moment. That Sam was slumbering inside a great automated uterus, and she would not emerge until he made it possible for her to do so. Sam, Sarah, and Kai's life or death depended on him, and he had no idea what to do. Kay had been so caught up with Sam and Sarah, and with his own pervasive feelings of loneliness, that he hadn't realized he was starting on this quest for Queen Gome and the elusive artifact she may or may not have, with no starting point, no plan of attack, no nothing. Sarah was the planner. She would have been all over this. He certainly wasn't. He was just flying through space with Laika. So, the Hospitallers at Terrath Nor will brief us on Queen Gome's current location, rearm us, and lay out some sort of plan of attack. I currently have no weapons. "Jarl Khan's weapons at castle," Laika said. "I would like to go home and get my Karg and my Poltava. I feel naked without them." "Home not safe," she said. "Hospitallers at Terrath Nor will have weapons for Jarl Khan." Kay stood in the open bay. "All right, that sounds fine. We'll figure out our bearing once we get there." A Mentralysis deck and hollow emitter was mounted to the ceiling of the ship. The deck flashed with random lights. "Is that another Mentralysis deck, Laika?" "Yes." "Does Rothaba speak and appear through this deck?" he asked. "Yes, but not now. Mother sleeps," she said. Rothaba sleeps. If the Hospitallers were correct, then that meant somewhere out there Queen Gome was awake, seeing through Sarah's eyes and hearing through Sam's ears, surrounded by her Jones servants. It was all too much to ponder. Kay felt numb and immensely tired. He seated himself on the long cushioned bench. "How long until we arrive at Terrath Nor, Laika?" 12 hours, 16 minutes, 45 seconds. "That's good enough, Laika. Thank you." Kay unbuttoned his vest and untucked his shirt. "I think I'll turn in for some sleep myself. I'm feeling pretty worthless right now. You should set the auto or whatever automated functions are available and get some sleep as well. We need to be fresh when we arrive on Kana." "Sleep?" she asked. "Of course. Don't you need to sleep?" "Laika protects Jarl Khan." Kay looked around at the empty Venera ship. Despite everything, he felt a growing fondness for Laika. She had an honest, innocent quality he found inviting. A Vith friends with a Hytath. Who would ever thought such a thing was possible? If she weren't there with him, he felt certain he would go mad with melancholy. "I think we're safe at the moment. Come and sleep." Kay lay back and stared at the ceiling of the ship. The engine, centuries old but tried and true, throbbed in a soothing fashion. At the control seat, Laika adjusted several knobs and pushed the chair back. "Laika may sleep?" "Of course you may. You needn't ask." I'm sorry, do Hytath need to sleep?" "I assumed as much, but Laika likes to sleep." "Then get comfortable and rest." The word comfortable seemed to give her difficulty, as if the concept was something she wasn't familiar with. She pondered it for a moment. "How does Laika become comfortable?" she asked. Kay stretched. He closed his eyes and dozed. How? It's amazing how complicated it can be to explain a topic that is normally taken for granted. "Well, I suppose you might let your hair down, you might loosen or remove any articles of clothing that pinch or bind, your boots perhaps, and I'm certain that armor isn't very pleasant to wear." "Laika needs boots and armor to fight, must protect Jarl Khan." There is no one to fight here. We are perfectly safe. She again pondered the thought and seated herself on the opposite bench. She gazed down at her boots and then began unlacing them, the old leather creaking as she did so. Where did you learn to fly? Kay asked as he rapidly descended into the first stages of sleep. My father is an amazing pilot, my sister as well. I, however, seem to have inherited my mother's flying skills, which are negligible at best. Laika removed her boots and set them aside, uncovering her pale skin and surprisingly delicate feet. Hospitowers taught Herlantha. Herlantha flew mother's ships. Now Herlantha gone. Laika must fly. She removed her gauntlets, revealing her giant size yet dainty wrists. She set to work on uncoiling her long fawn hair, her 6 arms working in complex unison. Kay drifted into that pleasant estuary between wakefulness and sleep. He heard metal rattle as Laika unclipped her banded mail pants and removed the plates. You fly very well, Laika, Kay said groggily. You should give yourself more credit. Herlantha flies, not Laika. Herlantha died in Wham. Her head was mounted on a post in the Wonderlux compound and put on display. I don't see Herlantha around here. Just you. There was a heavy clunk of metal. What was that? Kay wondered. He was too sleepy and content to open his eyes and look, or use his sight. Sleep nearly had him. He expected Laika to stretch out on the adjacent couch, though she was much too large for it. Instead, he felt her crawl up next to him and situate herself on the padded couch. She was nude. He felt the heat and smoothness of her taut, bare skin, smelled the faint aromas of her naked body. He felt 3 slim arms drape over him like a warm, inviting cage. What are you doing? She spoke, her mouth right next to his ear. Sleep. Jaro Khan said Laika could sleep. Comfortable. Laika comfortable next to Jaro Khan. Was he awake or asleep? He wasn't certain. Memories bubbled up, where he was asleep in the cottage on HOBM. Laika watching him sleep, lying next to him, placing flowers around his body. Laika's arms around him, the heat of her body. Laika groaning in pleasure. Kay groaning in pleasure, engulfed in her. Where were his sensibilities? Where were his principles and his loyalty to Sam? He should be recoiling right now, demurely shying away from her. But he might be asleep. And someone else appeared to be in control. The sleeping self, the Hospitower said. A different person. Different person. His right arm came up all on its own and probed behind him, coming into contact with Laika. He felt his hand traversing the alien and inviting giant-sized mountain range of Laika's 6 breasts, the towering primary ones, followed by the lesser rows like foothills, progressively dwarfed by the larger peaks. He felt the rise and fall of her firm, rubbery skin, very different in texture from Sam's silky skin. Her 6 hands moved up and down every bit of him. He could feel Laika gently trying to turn him around to face her, while another hand fumbled with his pants. His sleeping self argued with him to give in and turn around, for certainly Laika was offering herself to him. He could make love to an alien High-Tath warrior. How many Vith, short of Hama of Telma's Falls, could say that? His rational, more waking self, the one that was committed to Sam, resisted, and the matter passed and the argument won. He put his arm down at his side and moved her wandering hand away from his pants. Laika relented and snuggled in tighter, holding him like a teddy bear, and was soon asleep. Speak the words! Drifted through his head. Something in the dark nearby. Something angry. Speak the words! I cannot help you! Kay awoke to the sounds of the comm near the control chair going off. The interior of the ship was dark. Laika was all over him, lightly snoring. Laika, we're being calmed. Can you let me up, please? She rustled a bit, but didn't wake. Kay wafted out of her grasp. She searched around for him and then curled up and continued sleeping. Kay seated himself at the comm and accepted the message. Lord Blanchford, came Rawl's voice. Is that you? It is. What is your ETA to Kana? Your Venera ship does not appear on our scopes. Out the front glass, Kay saw the gallery of open space charged with color. The stars were so bright he couldn't make out familiar constellations. I'm not sure. Where is the High-Tath? Why is it not flying the ship? Are you qualified to pilot a Venera V4 vessel? Laika is asleep, and no, I am not. The ship is on auto, I believe. Rawl was shocked. Asleep? High-Tath have no need for sleep. It ought to be manning the controls at all times. I've allowed her to get some rest. Perhaps we'll need it once we arrive. I think I see Codus in the far distance, that bluish star that stands out from the rest. We are in no danger. Can you enable your ponder and we shall get a fix on your position? Kay surveyed the vast panels full of buttons and switches and had no idea what he was looking for. It will be on the left-hand quarter panel labeled 2N, Rawl added, predicting Kay's lack of knowledge of the Venera's instruments. Kay searched for it and found the switch Rawl described. He enabled it. There. Now what can I do for you? Rawl hesitated. I wanted to inform you we are having significant issues with one of your kin. She is resisting stasis. Kay thought back and recalled Kai's blinking capsule in the infirmary, giving the Chancellor's fits. Kai, are you referring to Magistrate Kylos? Is she in danger? No, though she is also giving us trouble. I'm referring to your cousin, Sarah. She established a holistic link out of her capsule and was wandering in our Krant system for a short time, even accessing files. She hid from us in a database located in Hibernia and rewrote Lady Samidoran's RDP. We had to isolate her capsule and stand it on its own to prevent her further escape. Does she have any technical skills regarding networking, holographics, cerebonics, or holistrophy? Kay scratched his head. Not that I'm aware of. I have no idea what any of those topics are, and I'm certain she doesn't either. Why? Has she attended the University of Arden or participated in any of the sisters' technical seminars at Twilight 4? Absolutely not. That I'm certain of. Rawl's tone sounded interested. The master Mentralysis and Hospitaller in him came through. He said again. It is very possible that your cousin Sarah is an Ultra then. What is that? Kay asked. It's a Mentralysis archetype. We have discovered there are 7 basic types of people, or archetypes, depending on how much deviation exists between the sleeping self and the waking self. The Ultra is a special class of archetype. The Ultra is unique in that the sleeping self displays skills and talents the waking self does not possess. It's normally the inverse. The Ultra, for example, might be a master painter or great writer, even if the waking self has had no training or exhibits no particular talent in those areas. It's very rare, but we have documented cases of Ultras displaying incredible skills. The Ultra can also exhibit traits of any of the other 6 archetypes. Only with analysis will we know which one your cousin is. We will hope at this point that she follows the standard statistics and is an MC, which in this case, the difference will be negligible. What are you planning on doing with my cousin? I believe we're going to do something unprecedented. I'm going to authorize the removal of some of the restrictions on her capsule and give her low-level access to the Krant network and some of our ancillary systems. I want to observe what she is capable of. I assure you she is in no immediate danger. The opportunity to observe an Ultra should never be missed. What about Kai? We shall continue to monitor her. Keep me advised, please. I will do so. Your ponder data is in. You are on course for a median polar orbit of Kana, ETA 2 hours with a descent to our banking facility at Tariff Nor. A banking facility? Tariff Nor is a bank? Did I hear you correctly? It is. Tariff Nor is an outlet of the Standard Bank of the League. It is rather like a self-contained community and a commune for bankers, so I'm told. A commune for bankers? Kay winced. That sounds lovely. I'm sorry, but that is our largest facility on Kana at present. Once there, we will determine a plan of attack. In the meantime, I recommend you wake the High-Tath and do not allow it to sleep again. I repeat, High-Tath have no physiological need for sleep. be advised, allowing them to sleep can foster a psychological need in them to do so, akin to encouraging them to become drunk or indulge in recreational drugs, and it might behave erratically. It might even attempt to have sexual intercourse with you. Hytath are known to behave most erotically when a sleep-ready state. Sexual intercourse with the Hytath is counterproductive to our mission, and I advised against it. Unless you fancy such things, in which case that is your business. I will be here at the Gold Coast Sanctum Bells Deep and will be available if you need me. How is Sam, Rawl? Stable. Rawl out. Kay closed the comm and approached Laika. She was a nude tangle of arms and breasts, supine on the couch, her calves and feet dangling over the edge. He shook her. Laika, it's time to wake up. Laika. She smacked her lips and stretched. Two of her hands found his shoulders. Come, sleep with Laika, she purred, her eyes still closed. It's time to get up. We're nearing Kana. With gentle strength, she pulled Kay down onto the warm couch. Still have time, she mumbled. Still have 2 hours, 4 minutes, 32 seconds until interface. Laika comfortable. Lay with Laika. Kay had heard the Hytath had eidetic computer-like brains, able to keep track of complex and minute detail, never forgetting a thing even when addled with sleep. Seeing it in action was impressive. Kay sighed and allowed himself to fall back to sleep in a warm 6-arm embrace. He felt better of it, but her body felt so good and nothing was happening. So why not? Why not? Came a voice in his head. And with that, we conclude Part 2, Chapter 4, Sleep. And were you able to figure out my conundrum? Was it not obvious? While writing this, I became enamored with the character of Laika. I do that. Most authors do. They grow fond of a certain character or a certain plot line. And I wanted Kay and Laika to have an affair. I wanted it bad. I wanted it real bad. But I had just spent 3 books getting Kay and Sam together in the Temple of the Exploding Head saga. It was a great trial and tribulation getting Kay and Sam together, even involving a death and rebirth from death. So I thought, Kay would be a real loser, a real sot, if all of a sudden, after all that, he starts cheating on Sam. Especially when she's stuck in a capsule on HOBM. He should be thinking nothing except saving her, getting her out of that situation. And to have him go off on a dally with Laika would have just knocked him down innumerable points in probably a lot of people's mind, and in my mind too. Even though I wanted it, I was like, if Kay gave in and had sex with Laika, he would suck. So I worked in, the whole Mentralysis thing, partially to have my cake and eat it too. So when Kay was asleep in the cottage on HOBM, he and Laika were pounding it like dogs. But he was asleep, and his sleeping self was doing it, not his waking self. A totally different person. And as we find out later, eventually we find out Kay has been penciled in as an SC, which means significant change. So his sleeping self is very different from his waking self. His sleeping self is not committed to Sam at all, and relishes the chance to sleep with a giant 6-armed, 6-breast alien. Who wouldn't want such a thing? So that's how I could have him dally with her a little bit, just enough to satiate me, but not break his vows and his commitment to Sam. I was proud of that. Like, yes, I figured out a way out of this dilemma. We also learned from Rawl that Sarah is an Ultra, that Sarah has, through her capsule, been getting out and manipulating their Krant network. She's been rewriting files, and she even rewrote Sam's RDP. When we see that Sarah entered Sam's dream, she was doing it, electronically via the Krant network, through networking basically. And she also rewrote Sam's RDP, and she did it a little bit better than the Hospitallers, as Sam could smell in Sarah's version, where she couldn't in the Hospitower's more generic RDP. So we see it's her networking skills given to her that her ultra self has access to doing that. And we'll see how this comes into play later on. And Raul, being curious, being a typical Hospitower, is like, okay, well, we're going to let her have some roam in the Krant network. We want to actually observe her and see what she does. So we will see how that progresses. Then the next chapter, chapter 5, is called The Ultra. So obviously we interact with Lady Sarah to some degree. Kay also learns that they're on their way to a banking facility on Kana. So obviously the Hospitowers don't really have much of a plan at this point, so this quest is starting off on pretty shaky ground. Don't really know where they're going, don't really know what they're doing, don't really know where the enemy is or the threat is. Just sort of flying through space, and we'll figure it out once we get there, right? Once we land at the bank on Kana, which sounds lovely. So then, that will be next week. Until then, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.